Today's conversations, we'll be talking about the NHS bowel cancer screening. For those of you who don't know, this is something that has been, this is an Instagram live. You all know it's live, as you can see. That is London-based, which is a location where the bowel cancer screening started for 58 years old in May. And we'll be finding out why the age is 58. And I'm truly honored and happy that all of you could join me. And I know it's been had to have a bit of hiccup already, but you are here and you are going to learn. Don't worry about the delay, worry about now. What are you going to learn about this whole campaign? This is for you. Women, men, ethnic minorities, wherever you are, listen to this conversation because this is for you. Is this still working?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
All right, Dr. Austin, Mr. Austin, I would ask you to introduce yourself so our guest knows who you are and tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're involved with this campaign.
Right. Well, thank you for inviting me to your show. Apologies for the internet connection. My name is Austin Cherry. I'm a surgeon. I actually treat people with bowel cancer. I also have a second remit as the director of the bowel cancer screening program. So it's very close to my heart because I think it's important the purpose of the initiative is to encourage minorities, particularly blacks, those of South Asian origin, some in the Polish community, to take up the bowel screening because it's a wonderful life-saving initiative that's entirely free. The reason we are running the current campaign in London is the fact that the uptake in London is far lower than the rest of the United Kingdom. And it's important people take part in the screening program because, as I said, it's life-saving, it's free. We can pick up cancers at a very early stage where it's easily treatable, easily curable. And so it's important people, your viewers, take part, particularly those groups that I alluded to earlier on.
Absolutely. Now, Mr. Austin, I'm absolutely delighted to have you on board. I know how busy your schedule is. I was just telling my followers that, this is your first time actually using Instagram. So
yes.
Ignoring the hiccups, it's just not something you're totally you do all the time. So this is your first time. So I'm so glad that you made that time out of your busy schedule to tell us more about this really important program, which will save so many lives. So let's go to our first question, which is, what is this? What is the NHS bowel cancer screening campaign all about? I know you talked briefly about it, but if you just could answer it, what is that?
Well, this current campaign, as you know, is targeting London, and the aim is a sort of it's definitely a life-saving initiative where we are trying to encourage specific groups to have a greater uptake in the screening. Now, the bowel cancer screening program is, available for anybody between the ages of 60 and 74. They receive a free kit in the post from the NHS, and it has instructions on what they need to do and return the kit. More recently, it's been expanded to include those 56 years of age as of the 31st of March 2021. And even in this year, in May, 15th of May, anyone who hits the 58th birthday will receive a kit to participate in the program.
So even though some people might be young and listening to this, they could also talk about this to their parents and parents and say these are some of the kits. I hope you're utilizing it, but I'll get back to that in a second. So you've talked about who's eligible, and you said who's eligible for the bowel screening. Could you just give specifically why those age range has been specifically chosen?
Fine. Well, I think the age range, typically bowel cancer is indeed commoner in those 60 and above, hence the program target between 60 and 74. However, due to ongoing research, due to clinical advice from the UK Cancer Screening Program Committee, as well as due to modeling, we find that we need to expand the program to include those between the ages of 50 and 59. Now, it's going to be phased in over the next 4 years. It started last year, where those who hit their 56th birthday will be invited to take part in the program. And this year, those who are also 58 years of age are eligible to participate in the screening program. So we would anticipate by 2025, we would include the age ranges from 50 to 74. And simply as I alluded to earlier on, they will receive a free kit in the post every 2 years.
Okay. So, one of the things that you started with is that we need to reach not just the London community, but there's also a lack of reach to the ethnic minority community with this campaign. One of the things you want to do is reach more of the ethnic minority. Why specifically those groups? Are they not just coming forward? Or is there something they're just not hearing about it? Why do you think, and why is it important to reach them?
Well, it's important to reach them because they are currently not achieving an uptake comparable to other parts or other communities, certainly in London. The essence is that we know that if they participate in the program, that we up to 25% of people, 25 people who participate in the program, there's a 25% chance they're less likely to die. So it's important we encourage them. Now, the challenges obviously are being minorities. Some people are just absolutely terrified of the word cancer. Others feel they are not at risk because they have no symptoms whatsoever. Then we have to look at those who are deprived. We have to specifically look at Black people, particularly the men, as I think the women are far more savvy, health conscious, those from South Asian communities, and so on. So the uptake generally within this group is in the region of about 40%, which is far lower than comparative communities in the United Kingdom. Hence the initiative to try and encourage them to take part in this program.
I have to tell my followers to keep asking your question. I can see that I'm taking notes of your question, and I love one of the questions that two people put forward, because that is actually my next question. And my next question is, what are the symptoms? Because I love this question, because anyone, it doesn't matter what part of the world you are living in, you would understand this question. This question is useful to you. What are the symptoms of bowel cancer?
Right. Well, the symptoms are varied, but by far the most common that we ask people to look out for are obviously things like bleeding, and the bleeding can be any form, fresh blood, or any quantity. Then there are those who describe a change in their bowel pattern. So I think we all pretty much over time have a specific bowel pattern, but if you suddenly realize that you're going to the toilet more frequently or less frequently, if there's been a significant change over a number of weeks or so, one should basically take note. Then there are obviously some people may have abdominal discomfort or pain. They may be able to feel an abdominal swelling. There's the urge that they keep going to the loo and feel that they haven't quite emptied and they have to keep returning to the bathroom. Then there are some of the typical symptoms and signs of anemia. As you know, anemia is a low blood count due to low iron. And typically it manifests as people are easily tired, easily fatigued. They don't quite have the energy reserves they had previously. So these are essentially some of the symptoms that we would advise people to look out for and to seek medical attention. And I think I'll take the opportunity to emphasize that the screening program itself is not 100% perfect. No program is 100% sensitive. That if you have it and you test negative, and then that pretty much says that you haven't got any blood in your stool, but it doesn't 100% say to you that you can't have cancer. The reason I've mentioned this is that even if you are participating in a screening program and you test and you have any of these symptoms that we've described, please seek medical attention, because the tests, the screening program is not 100% sensitive.
Okay, this is absolutely useful, because I mean, a lot of us might see these symptoms and tend to ignore it or just think nothing of it. And the sooner when you recognize these symptoms, is one of the things they always say, it's just immediately, contact your GP, or, and by listening to what you're just saying, that will give people intuition to think about it.
Yeah.
When you see anything that's odd in your bowel movement, think about it and ask yourself, why do you think this is happening, and what can you do about it? So now we go back to the NHS bowel screening kits. For people who might be anywhere else in the world, but this is also very helpful for you, because if you're in that part of the world and you have access to these screening kits, these are things you can know how to utilize the screening kit. So how does someone use the NHS bowel screening kit? In case I want to tell my mother, I want to tell my auntie, my thing, how do you use it?
Well, if you are eligible, as I alluded to, you'll get the kit in the post every 2 years. It's entirely free, and simply all it involves is that you are going to take a little sample of poo using a sample sticks they give you, and you then place that sample with a little bit of poo inside a sample bottle. You then put it into the package that's already sent to you, and then you post just the normal, regular, post box, red post box. You don't need to pay anything; it's free, and you return it to the test center. And one of the NHS test centers will be looking at the stool sample, looking essentially for the presence of blood. So it's easy to use. I will just also emphasize that since 2019, we've been using the newer version of the kit known as the FIT, the fecal immunochemical test, and it is easier to use. It's more convenient. And what was a little bit worrying is the fact that even though it's much easier, much convenient, it still hasn't raised the uptake in this target group we are trying to encourage to participate in the program.
Okay. Is it hygienic? Because I think this is one of the things that puts people off about bowel cancer, bowel screening. And when you see this, you really just want to ignore it, but the long-term damage of ignoring it actually worse off. So you might as well But is it hygienic to do what you just asked us to do?
Right, I fully understand. I've said this from previous interviews, that obviously, as a community as a whole, we are not very comfortable about talking about bodily functions, the poo and the wheeze and so on and so forth. This test is extremely hygienic. It's designed in such a way that there is no harm of you, or no risk to you picking up an infection of any form. The instructions are very, very clear that come with the kit, and essentially it's taking a small stool sample. You are encouraged to wear gloves. You take the sample, put into the sample bottle, and put it in the package that they sent to you. It's very simple, very straightforward. And so to answer your question, it is extremely hygienic, and there's no concern or risk of you getting any significant infection.
But yeah, I think guys, I think the most important thing, I think, like Mr. Austin said here, is honestly, this will save your life. And after doing this, just wash your hands thoroughly, wash it again, and there are gloves involved. But it's better to do this than risk the life of not knowing if you have the cancer, because the death from it actually happens quickly, pretty fast. So if you could look out for it, that would be great. What does the lab look for when you when you do this sample, you put it in the toolbox and you send it off to the lab? What are they looking for?
Right, okay, well, the lab, they're looking specifically for small traces of blood. Now, the presence, as I said to you, one of the commonest symptoms of bowel cancer is bleeding in the stool, which you may easily see, or it may be what we use the term occult. In other words, it's there, you can't actually see it with the naked eye. So in the lab, they have excellent sort of equipment